Sabrina Carpenter just dropped what might be the most explosive album of 2024, and the internet is absolutely going insane. We're talking death threats, cemetery parties, and lyrics that have completely destroyed her ex-boyfriend's reputation. But here's the thing that nobody's talking about. This isn't just some random breakup album. This is strategic career warfare disguised as heartbreak pop. And the receipts are more shocking than anyone imagined. If you want to stay updated on all the latest celebrity drama and music industry chaos, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because we dive deep into stories that other channels won't touch.
The moment Sabrina posted that album cover for Man's Best Friend, the entire internet erupted into complete chaos. And I'm not talking about regular fan disagreement. This was full-scale digital warfare. The image showed Sabrina in what appeared to be a submissive pose, and critics immediately started tearing her apart. Comments flooded in calling it regressive, saying she was pandering to the male gaze, and accusing her of setting women back decades. The backlash was so intense that trending hashtags started forming within hours, with some people genuinely questioning if Sabrina had lost her mind, or if this was some kind of publicity stunt gone wrong. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of backing down or issuing some generic apology, Sabrina doubled down in the most savage way possible. She released an alternate cover with a caption that read, "And here is a new alternate cover approved by God available now on my website." That wasn't just shade. That was her basically telling every critic to shut up because she didn't care about their opinions. The alternate cover showed her in a completely different pose, making it clear that the controversy was completely intentional. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers.
What most people didn't realize is that Sabrina has always used layered messaging and satire in her visuals. This wasn't some desperate attempt to appeal to male fans. It was a calculated artistic statement about expectations placed on women in the industry. But the damage was already done, and the internet had already chosen sides. Just when everyone thought the drama couldn't get more intense, Sabrina announced she was throwing her album release party at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And let me tell you, people lost their absolute minds. The comments were brutal, people calling it disrespectful, attention-seeking, and downright weird. Social media exploded with takes about how inappropriate it was to celebrate new music in a place where people are buried. Critics started questioning her mental state, with some suggesting she was having some kind of breakdown or identity crisis.
But here's what those critics didn't know. Hollywood Forever Cemetery isn't just some random graveyard. This place hosts events all the time. We're talking movie screenings, concerts, weddings, and cultural celebrations. Iconic Hollywood figures like Judy Garland are buried there, and it's become this almost sacred space for entertainment history. Sabrina explained that she goes there regularly to watch old movies, and the symbolism aligned perfectly with this new chapter of her career. During the release party, she did a Q&A, where she called the event a funeral for the last album and a birth of the new one. But then, she made a joke that had everyone talking. She said since she's always ending up taking out men in her music videos, it made sense to have the party somewhere that fit the theme. That comment alone generated thousands of social media posts, analyzing every single one of her previous videos, looking for patterns.
Now let's get into the real tea that everyone's been dying to know about. If you've been following Sabrina's dating life, then you know she was in a very public relationship with Barry Keoghan. This wasn't just some casual fling. Barry is a legitimate A-list actor known for movies like The Banshees of Inisherin and Saltburn. They started dating around late 2023, and for about a year, they seemed like the perfect couple. Barry even starred in one of her music videos, which made fans think this was serious long-term relationship material. But then December 2024 happened, and reports started coming out that they had quietly ended things. Neither of them made any official statements, but sources close to both camps confirmed the split was real. What made it more interesting was the timing. Sabrina was already deep into working on this new album, which meant she was writing songs while their relationship was falling apart in real time.
When fans first heard Manchild a few months ago, they immediately started pointing fingers at Barry. But Sabrina quickly shut that down, posting on Instagram that the song was actually written before their breakup during a random Tuesday session with her collaborators. She said it ended up being the best random Tuesday of her life and that the song became something she could look back on as a soundtrack to her confusing young adult years. Since she wrote it not long after finishing Short and Sweet, and they were still together when that album was completed, the timeline seemed to check out. But now that Man's Best Friend is out, fans have been dissecting every single lyric, looking for clues about what really went down between them. And let me tell you, what they found is absolutely devastating. The picture that emerges from these songs is of a guy who completely checked out of the relationship while she was still trying to make it work. We're talking about someone who stopped putting in effort, stopped communicating properly, and basically left her crying and confused about what went wrong.
In one of the tracks, she talks about getting turned on by simple tasks like a guy assembling IKEA furniture, suggesting that the bar had gotten so low that basic competence became attractive. But then she describes how this particular person wasn't even meeting those minimal standards. The lyrics suggest someone who wasn't treating her with basic respect or consideration, despite her having real feelings and being emotionally invested in the relationship. Another song paints an even more brutal picture. She describes a guy who used to be completely obsessed with her, calling all the time, being affectionate and clingy, wanting every part of her personality. But then something changed, and she didn't recognize this new version of him who was pulling away and creating distance. She sings about lying awake at night wondering what happened to the version she fell in love with, questioning if she could somehow return him and get back the guy who used to care.
The most devastating part might be how she describes his newfound self-control. She talks about how he suddenly discovered willpower and self-restraint, but in the worst possible way, using it to create distance from her instead of improving himself. The lyrics suggest someone who went from being completely devoted to acting like she was suddenly the least important person in his life. She describes him as busy, working, having no time for her, and not even being tempted by her attempts to reconnect. But it gets worse. In another track, she calls out how this person was saying a lot of nothing, basically talking without backing up words with actions. The message is clear. Stop giving me paragraphs of explanations and excuses when what I need is you to actually show up and put effort into this relationship.
Then there's the song that might be the most revealing of all. She describes receiving a breakup message that was dressed up in self-help language, something about taking a break so he could grow emotionally. But she sees right through it, recognizing it as just another version of the same story she's heard before. The lyrics suggest this wasn't the first time she'd been in this situation, with guys who seem great at first, but end up being just like all the others. And in the final goodbye track, she makes it crystal clear that she wasn't the one who ended things. She directly asks if he forgot that he was the one who said goodbye, and then declares that goodbye means forever. No coming back, no second chances, no hitting her up later when he changes his mind.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Fans think Barry wasn't the only ex getting called out on this album. In one song, she mentions drinking and thinking about maybe calling up her exes, specifically mentioning names that could be John, Larry, and someone that rhymes with villain. Fans immediately connected Larry to Barry, villain to Dylan O'Brien, who she was spotted with in New York, and John to Shawn Mendes. If this theory is correct, she's not just exposing one relationship, she's calling out a pattern of behavior from multiple guys in her past. The Shawn Mendes connection is particularly messy because there was already drama between them before. If she's really referencing him in these songs, it suggests that the issues she faced with Barry might have been part of a bigger pattern of disappointment with men in the industry.
Then came the interview that changed everything. Gayle King sat down with Sabrina and did something that shocked everyone. She directly named Barry Keoghan on national television. People were freaking out in the comments, saying they couldn't believe Gayle had the audacity to put his name out there like that. The question was about people speculating that songs were about him, and whether Sabrina felt any responsibility for the online hate he was receiving. Sabrina's response was carefully crafted but revealing. She said, "It's better for people to think of whoever's in their head, rather than focusing on who was in her head while writing the songs." When pressed about the backlash Barry was facing from her fans, she maintained that she never actually said the songs were about him. But the subtext was clear. She wasn't going to protect him from the consequences of people drawing their own conclusions.
What made the interview even more awkward was Gayle's apparent lack of preparation. She referred to Short and Sweet as Sabrina's first album when it's actually her sixth, and seemed to misunderstand the timeline of when Barry actually received hate from fans. The whole thing felt uncomfortable, and fans noted that Sabrina looked visibly annoyed at several points, especially when Gayle asked how she was doing, and she responded with a somewhat sarcastic, "I'm great, here with you." The aftermath of this album release has been absolutely wild. Barry has remained mostly silent, which some people interpret as taking the high road, while others see it as an admission of guilt. Meanwhile, Sabrina's fans have been relentless in their support of her, flooding social media with analyses of every lyric and defending her right to turn her experiences into art.
But here's what's really interesting about this whole situation. Sabrina has always been upfront with guys she dates that she writes songs about her relationships. She's mentioned in interviews that most of them seem flattered to get musical shout-outs and that there's usually no bad blood. But this time feels different. The level of detail in these songs, combined with the timing of their release and her strategic media appearances, suggests this isn't just artistic expression. It's a calculated move to control the narrative about what happened. Think about it. Barry can't really respond without confirming that the songs are about him, which would only generate more attention and potentially more backlash. He's essentially been checkmated by someone who turned heartbreak into a high-stakes PR campaign. Whether that's fair or not depends on your perspective, but you can't deny it's brilliant from a career standpoint.
The broader implications of this album release go way beyond just one failed relationship. Sabrina is establishing herself as someone who won't be silently discarded or mistreated without consequences. In an industry where women are often expected to protect men's reputations, even after those men hurt them, she's flipping the script entirely. She's showing that in 2024, breaking up with a successful woman might come with a price tag that includes public humiliation and career damage. This album represents a shift in how young women are handling heartbreak and disappointment. Instead of suffering in silence or making vague references, Sabrina is putting everything on the table with surgical precision. She's not just making music. She's creating a masterclass in how to turn pain into power and betrayal into billboard success.
The question now is whether this approach will inspire other artists to be more direct about their experiences, or if it will make men in the industry more cautious about getting involved with musicians who might turn their relationship into chart-topping content. Either way, Sabrina Carpenter has just changed the game in a way that nobody saw coming. What's your take on this whole situation? Do you think Sabrina crossed a line, or is this just smart business disguised as artistic expression? Let me know in the comments what you think about artists using their platforms to expose their exes, and whether Barry deserved what he got. Make sure you're subscribed because this story is far from over, and when more details emerge, you know we'll be breaking it all down for you.